I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Cunningham Town Board. This is a special meeting for Monday, March 17th, 2025. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu.
Here.
Trustee Evans.
Here.
Trustee Hersey. Trustee Colasetti.
Here.
Trustee Bishop.
Here.
Trustee Wilkin.
Here.
Trustee Quisenberry. Mayor Marlin.
Here.
Supervisor Chenoweth. Assessor Owana.
Please let us know who you're representing and who you are. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Shayla Kenyon Bass Briggs, Deputy Supervisor for Cunningham Township.
Seeing no public participation, we have one item on the agenda, and this is approval of the annual Township Board meeting agenda for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. Are you making a presentation?
No.
No, actually, so the town clerk prepares the annual town agenda and handles starting up the annual town meeting each year. So our duty tonight is a statutory one. It is just to approve the agenda for the annual town meeting. We received no submissions from the electorate to add additional items of business. So there are a standard number of items of business, including improving the minutes of the prior year, electing a moderator because it is not actually a meeting of the town board. So there is not a chair. It is a meeting of the electorate. So that is registered voters of the township. Who are physically in attendance at the meeting. Every township in the state of Illinois has an annual town meeting at the exact same time on the second Tuesday in April every year. The supervisor did add one item of business that is different than last year, which is the resolution TA 2025-001R, a resolution to delegate authority to the township board to purchase, sell, and lease property. A copy of that resolution has been prepared by the township attorney and was emailed to the board earlier. I do have copies. We are not approving that resolution as a town board. That is a resolution that will go before the electorate for their approval. Tonight, we are just approving the agenda so that it may be advertised in the paper and published in 3 prominent locations within the township, which is City Hall, the Urbana Free Library, and at the Cunningham Township office. They will be published for not less than 15 days ahead of the meeting on April 8th. If you have any questions about the agenda, I'm happy to help assist.
Mary Alice.
So Darcy, I've been reading through 6 EILCS on the Township Code, trying to understand a little bit better about the delegation of the authority to the Township Board to purchase, sell, and lease property. I don't recall us having to do this in the past, so I'm wanting to know what changed.
So this is not, there is never a time that this is necessarily required, right? This is an option that is available to townships. To my knowledge, Cunningham Township has not done this, but in 2022, I was able to confirm that the city of Champaign Township did this in September when they purchased the time shelter. So they called a special meeting of the electorate, similar to our annual meeting in April, but we can always call additional ones. And they called it the same evening that they scheduled a special town board meeting. As I understand it, and I am not an attorney, so please take this for what it is. What I have gleaned from reading the minutes of both of those meetings and seeing the agendas and reading the memo prepared by the then Township Supervisor, Andy Kornstrom, the purpose of this is it is asking the electorate to basically grant permission to the town board to purchase property with as little as just a resolution. So the purchase is still done via a resolution and a public vote in a regular meeting. But traditionally, when a unit of government purchases, sells, or leases property, there is like a public hearing process that causes it to be staggered because there are certain noticing requirements needed to advertise public hearings ahead of time. What I saw with the city of Champaign Township is they had their meetings on the same night because this special permission from the electorate allowed them to do it on an expedited timeline. So they had their special meeting where the electorate passed a resolution of the exact same title and very similar text. The difference is their resolution explicitly identified the Times shelter property on Washington and Champaign and included a specific dollar amount. And then after that passed at that meeting, they adjourned it and called to order a special meeting where there was a resolution advertised to the public granting the township board permission to purchase that specific property, and they provided like the assessment report, et cetera. As I understand this resolution, it would grant similar authority to the town board not to exceed 12 months. So this would, if the electorate adopted it, would grant the township board authority to, at a meeting that they advertise not less than the 48 hours required by the Open Meetings Act, to have a resolution on there to purchase, sell, or lease property without the additional requirement of a public hearing. So it serves, as I understand it, to expedite the process of acquiring or selling property, but it is certainly still done publicly, and it requires the public's permission to remove the public hearing portion.
So I guess my big question, so this is purchasing or leasing property, and we lease property from Lincoln Square. Every year we sign a lease as a township board for the assessor's office. Does that mean that we were doing that incorrectly?
I believe we had a public hearing the first time we signed the lease, and then subsequently we were just renewing the existing lease, so it wasn't new.
Okay. I guess right now, as it is written, it says that the town board can basically do whatever procedure they want, you know, in a nutshell, in legalese. And I guess my only concern would be, one thing that I think frustrates the public sometimes is if something has come to the attention of the public and then it's voted on the same day and there's no like time for the public to process something. So that to me is concerning. I realize that we don't vote on the resolution, I get that, but we are voting on whether or not it should be added to the meeting. Can the electors choose to amend it? I don't know how that works in it.
Yes, the electors, as I understand it, will have the authority to amend this and also have the authority to reject it as well, because the electors are the deciding board too for this resolution.
So in other words, if this doesn't pass, then basically a public hearing is mandated before township can purchase or lease something. Is that correct?
Correct. The standard procurement requirements in place for all units of government in relation to property would be in full effect if the electorate did not adopt this resolution at the annual town meeting, or if the town board felt concerns about this being on the agenda.
Any other comments? Jaya?
Well, I think one thing in terms of it being very similar to Champaign Township, it still says Champaign Township in one place within the first whereas. So at the very least, that needs to be changed to Cunningham Township. I will say I don't love that this is getting to us so last minute. And Darcy, thank you so much for trying to explain it. I think that's good information, but certainly would have been nice to hear from the township attorney tonight too.
Grace?
And then can I also just clarify that as a town board, we're not having any input or accepting or rejecting of the resolution itself at this time. Is that right?
So that is an area that I actually am not completely clear on. I will be honest. As I understand it, the role of the town board this evening is simply to approve the agenda. There are certain portions of the agenda that I know for a fact cannot be edited, that are just boilerplate. They have to be on there. This resolution was placed on the agenda at the request of the supervisor. Whether that is with the consent of the town board or not is something that I unfortunately do not have complete clarity on. I apologize.
Mary Alice?
So as I understand it, what you're saying is that we have to either approve or not approve the entire agenda, and we don't have the ability to pull something from the agenda. Is that correct?
So we have to approve the agenda. That is not an option. We have to approve a version of the agenda, to clarify, because we have certain time requirements that we are bound by in terms of noticing to ensure that the public is duly informed. But I am not clear on if the town board is able to remove that resolution. I was hoping to have legal representation and/or more confirmation from the supervisor's office. However, I would think that it would be something that the town board would have the authority to say yay or nay on.
So hypothetically, if somebody asks to pull it off of the agenda, does Township have the ability to call a special meeting just specifically for that resolution?
So that specific resolution is not something that would necessarily, so outside of it appearing on the agenda, it is not something that would be for consideration of the town board as a
I
standalone
apologize, the
item.
electorate.
Yes, but the electorate absolutely can have a special meeting at another time to consider that resolution, which is exactly what City of Champaign Township did in September of 2022. So it is not a necessity that it does appear at the annual town meeting. I think the intent was we already have a meeting of the electorate rather than have the additional advertising. I think that was the intent, but.
Were there other comments? Chandra, did I see your hand?
I was just gonna offer a motion, I guess. Since it is just our duty to approve or disapprove the agenda, not the contents of it. Ish. If discussion was more or less wrapped up.
So is that a motion to approve the agenda from Trustee Bishop?
Yes.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Mary Alice?
I'd like to make a motion to remove the item off of the agenda for the resolution number TA 2025-001, a resolution to delegate authority to the Township Board to purchase, sell, and lease property.
So is that a friendly amendment?
I'm happy to make it a friendly amendment.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda.
Yeah, the person who made the original amendment would be the one to friendly amend it, right? You can't make a friendly amendment, you can make a new amendment.
Okay, new amendment then.
All right, it's a new amendment. So the motion on the floor is to remove the resolution.
Waiting for a second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Jaya. We'll take one at a time, so we'll take the amendment first.
Can we have discussion? We haven't had discussion on
it.
it.
Discussion. Yes. Is there discussion on this amendment? Grace.
Thank you. I'm in favor of keeping it. I think it's up to the electorate here. I do think that some more information would be helpful. I agree that having attorneys, having the full supervisor, and I think Shayla, if any point, if you want to jump in, I think that ultimately not being our decision to make up to the electorate. So I think it's important that it gets posed there. But I do think it would be helpful for the electorate to have that information. I think that the goal here is for ease of property acquisition or use for the betterment of the goals of the township. And I think it's maybe not entirely clear here. So I think some more context for the electorate would be good. But I think ultimately it's up for them to decide that. I think if it were up to town board, I think that adding some wording like that could be helpful. Right now it just says, you know, any manner deemed necessary seems a little wide. I do think that it would be wise if the electorate wanted to go that way to even just add some language, you know, in line with serving, you know, the populations served by the township, something along that line, just kind of specifying what is the goal in this pre-authorization kind of thing. Why is it important to, what would be the benefits of skipping that public hearing? So I think more information for the electorate on April 8th would be helpful. And again, I think it's important to at least pose the question to the electorate.
Jaya.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said, Grace. But I also think that we're left to assume, and I don't feel comfortable with that. I think, you know, having caught one very glaring obvious error in what was sent to us at 4:37 this afternoon, I don't feel comfortable approving something that I don't know what it is. And so I think likely that if this came to us with more information, I'd be 100% on board. I think even exploring, is there a way to provide a second notice to clarify to the electorate that there will be another component that they can vote on, even if it's not officially part of that town board meeting, like if it could be piggybacked right afterwards. But the public also hasn't seen this. So, yes, it should be the decision of the electorate. That's one of the things I love about the township structure. But in saying I'm good with something being on the agenda, I don't know what it is. So I don't feel like I can vote on it in good faith. I don't feel comfortable with that. So I hope to see more information and clarity and the revision for at least that one error, so that we can put this in front of the electorate, but I don't feel comfortable doing so now.
Any discussion? Shaya.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for even considering this. And I do want to apologize for there being an error. Unfortunately, I'm not as abreast as I wish I was, but I do know the intent. And it is for obtaining more property, more land, more anything in order to serve our constituents here in Cunningham Township. So that's at the heart of it. And I just want to apologize, but thank you for even considering. But I do agree that there needs to be more discussion because I am a constituent myself.
Further comment? Mary Alice.
Well, I think Jaya summarized very eloquently my thoughts on this. I spent a couple of hours today trying to read into the Illinois State Code on townships to try and really hone in on what this does, and I'm quite confused. So if I'm confused and I've spent some time, I don't know how much time electorates would have to go through. And I think having something clear, I'm not against the process. What I just want to make sure that it's very clear and understandable to people who would be voting on it.
Any other comments? All right, we need to take a voice vote on, well, let's take a roll call vote on this amendment to remove this item from the annual town board agenda. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
Trustee Colasetti,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
No.
Trustee Wilkin,
No.
The motion passes 3-2. Now we'll go to the original motion to approve the agenda of the annual township board meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m., minus the resolution. Could we have a roll? Is there discussion on that one? Chandra?
So what's the process of adding things to the annual meeting agenda then? So like maybe not just this resolution, but anything else that may come up between now and the next 15 days or whenever this is?
So after the town board approves the annual town agenda, no changes can be made so that it can be advertised so that the electorate can be duly informed of what the business will be. But the process for items appearing on the annual agenda, I'm not going to provide the number because I don't have it fresh in my head, but there is a certain percentage of the electorate that may sign a petition requesting either a non-binding referendum advisory question. We had 2 of those such, actually at last year's annual town meeting. And they have a filing deadline with the township clerk, myself, of March 1st each year to get that in. And we had no such filings this year. The township supervisor or assessor, as I understand it, also have the authority to request items appear on the annual town agenda. We have had such items in prior years, such as a request to dispose of excess property because township doesn't have the same records disposal and retention process as the city of Urbana. They pretty much can only dispose of property, even broken property, through the permission of the electorate directly. So that is another example of a resolution usually presented by the township supervisor. So those are the mechanisms to get items on the agenda for the annual meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Jaya?
Am I correct in understanding that we're up against a deadline? We have to pass this tonight? Okay. So I'll just restate that if there's another way to like piggyback a meeting, I'd love to see that happen. I do want the electorate to have an option to weigh in. And again, just don't feel comfortable adding something I don't understand.
So yeah, I guess just to clarify, we can always have special meetings of the electorate. The timeline we are up against for this one is that the annual is encoded in state law at the exact same time every year, and we have timelines for that, for this one.
And just to clarify, when Champaign did it on September 20th, 2022, it was a special meeting of the electors, town meeting. And it was for a specific property at a specific price. Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Evans,
Yes.
Trustee Colasetti,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
No.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
That motion passes. We'll move on to reports of officers. Don't believe there are any reports of officers. Shea? No? Okay. All right. With no further business before this meeting, we stand adjourned.
but I forgot, it's a once-a-year thing.
It is St. Patty's Day. But I've seen other people wear green unintentionally properly vested.
So was the attorney on the phone? Like, did they call in or was it James? It was two people? So then one of them was the attorney.
Yes,